What's going on, everyone? This is Luke from South Beach Sports, and welcome to the first episode of my Miami Heat free agency preview. So in this first episode, I'll be breaking down all of the Miami Heat's unrestricted free agents, restricted free agents, and every player with a team option, and just give my opinions on whether the Miami Heat should re-sign this player or if they should let them go. Like always, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that post notification bell so you do not miss a single video. Also, go ahead and comment down below whether you agree or disagree with my opinions as I go through every player. The first player I want to talk about who is an unrestricted free agent is Euthanized Haslam, who would be entering his 19th season in the NBA. All of them, of course, have been with the Miami Heat, and he would be the oldest player in the NBA once again at 41 years old. Now, last year, he obviously did not play at all except for that 3-minute stint he had against the 76ers, which he infamously got ejected for pointing at Dwight Howard, as you guys see in the picture. Ultimately, I'm not really sure. I could see Udonis Haslam retiring, but I've been saying that the past 3 to 4 years. My ultimate prediction of what I think is going to happen is I think he's going to re-sign with the Heat once again on a 1-year deal, and I'm going to keep on predicting this every single season until he retires. The next player I want to talk about is Victor Oladipo, who the Heat traded for in last year's trade deadline. He only played in 4 games before suffering a season-ending right quad injury, and he is supposed to return around that November area, so early on next season we should expect to see an Oladipo return. Now, for his expected contract, I think he would be receiving a contract anywhere from around $7 to $12 million a year. The Athletic reported that his value is around $11 million, so I would expect a deal around there. And any deal that he does receive would be, I think, a short-term deal around a year or two, just given his massive injury concerns. Now, if the Heat can acquire Oladipo for like $11 to $12 million or less on a 1-year deal, I would not be opposed to bringing him back at all. I think Oladipo can do a very, very well job at just running that second unit as the main playmaker off the bench. I also want to point out that the Heat do have Victor Oladipo's bird rights, so they could go over the cap to re-sign him. So I'm not really going to spend that much time here on Nemanja Bjelica because I believe he already signed with a team in Europe. So obviously the Heat will not be re-signing Nemanja Bjelica, and hypothetically, if he was just an unrestricted free agent in the NBA, I don't think that the Heat would want to bring him back simply because he really didn't pan out for them last year. Bjelica was brought in at the trade deadline as a Kelly Olynyk replacement, and while he was a pretty good shooter, he shot 37% from 3. He really didn't offer much else. I mean, I would say he's an above average playmaker for his power forward / center position, but on defense, he's a complete liability. He struggles to switch onto perimeter players, and ultimately his stint with the Heat did not work. The next unrestricted free agent I want to talk about is Trevor Riza, who was acquired by the Heat from the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Myers Leonard in a future second-round pick mid-season last year. Now, Riza, for most of the regular season, proved that he could be a solid power forward replacement for Jay Crowder, as he's shown that he was a reliable corner three-point shooter and a pretty solid defender, as he would often pick up point guards and use his length to his advantage. In the playoffs, so this all changed as Ariza struggled mightily. On offense, he only shot 29% from 3, and on defense, he struggled as his task was to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo. Ariza's strength on defense is usually his length, but against Giannis, who's one of the more lengthier players in the NBA, this obviously did not work. Giannis just had the major strength advantage over him. Now, unless the Heat re-signs Riza to replace Andre Iguodala on the bench, I really don't see the need for him next year, as I expect the Heat to invest more money in a better power forward / center next to Bam. So ultimately, unless the Heat re-sign Riza to the bench, I do not think they will bring him back. The next player I want to talk about is Dwayne Deadman, who I was a huge fan of last year. He was obviously brought in as a free agent late last season from the buyout market, and I made multiple videos about Deadman before the Heat signed him, just explaining why he would be such a great addition, and he proved to be just that. Deadman offered the Heat a much different look at the center position than Bam. Bam is a switchy, mobile center who could pick up guards, while Dwayne Deadman is a more prototypical drop coverage type big who just feasts on the paint, is a good rim protector, and it really gave the Heat a different look off their bench. Deadman was also one of the few bright spots in that Bucks series. He had a very, very good game 2 in that absolute blowout loss that they had. So I would be a huge fan of bringing Dwayne Deadman back to be their backup center on a short 1-year deal. Now, the first of the 2 team options that I want to get into today is Goran Dragic. Dragic is due to make $19.4 million next year if the Heat do accept his team option. And I love Dragic. Dragic has been one of my favorite players ever for the Heat. But for this contract amount, I do not see the Heat accepting his team option. There are multiple options of what they could do with him though. The Heat could accept his team option and then trade away Dragic, as his $19 million would make trades for bigger name players easier to facilitate. The Heat could decline his team option and just let him go, and he could just enter free agency and do whatever he wants. Or the Heat could decline his team option with the idea of restructuring Dragic's contract to a more team-friendly deal. Ultimately, what I'm predicting to happen, and this is just a prediction, I don't have any rumors or insight on this situation, but what I think might happen is the Heat might give up Goran Dragic, just let him go into free agency, let him sign with another team. A team to watch out for in this scenario are the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks obviously have his international teammate in Luka Doncic, and with the rumors circulating this offseason that Luka Doncic is not super thrilled with the current direction of the Mavericks, then signing his close friend in Goran Dragic could obviously help improve matters. Before I get into Andre Iguodala, I first want to apologize that the background audio of this video might be a little weird. The air conditioning is on super high right now, so I apologize for that. Anyways, Andre Iguodala is the second of the 2 Heat team options. With Iguodala, I do not see the Heat bringing him back for the $15 million team option that he's worth. What the Heat could end up doing is they could accept his team option and trade him away as a filler for a larger package for a bigger name player. There have been rumors speculating that Iguodala could be a part of a Colin Sexton trade on draft night, so watch out for that as a possibility. Ultimately, what I think will end up happening is, given that Iguodala I don't think could be a reliable rotation player for the Heat moving forward, I think the Heat will end up declining his team option, letting Iguodala walk in free agency, where he would then decide whether to sign with another team, likely a contender, or to just retire. Now, the Heat have 2 restricted free agents, the first of which is Kendrick Nunn, which I'll get into now. Nunn did improve in his sophomore season, as he did have incredible shooting splits. He shot 49% from the field, 38% from 3, and just a phenomenal 93% from the free throw line. So he was almost part of that coveted 50-40-90 club. With Nunn, he could expect to receive a contract worth around $12 to $16 million. And with that contract amount, I think being pretty solid. I mean, if you compare some of the players in the NBA who are making $15 million a year, such as Marcus Morris, Dennis Schroeder last year, Nunn compares pretty nicely. Now, I would not be opposed to the Heat re-signing Nunn if the Heat went out and got someone else. I'm not really thrilled with Nunn being a long-term starter for the Heat. I think he's more suited for a 6-man role. But if the Heat do end up signing someone like a Kyle Lowry in free agency, if they trade for someone like Colin Sexton and they need a spark plug off the bench, then I could definitely see the Heat re-signing Nunn to a pretty team-friendly $15 million a year contract. The next player I want to talk about is the second restricted free agent and the most coveted free agent that the Heat currently have, and that's Duncan Robinson. Robinson has proven so far in his young NBA career that he's one of the best shooters in the NBA, and he's expected to be paid for that this offseason. He could expect to receive a contract of $20 to $24 million. It was reported, I think, in May. And given that teams will be willing to overpay for a shooter like Robinson, a team maybe like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have a boatload of cap space, it really puts the Heat in a tough position. The Heat do have the bird rights for Robinson, which again means that they could go over the cap to re-sign Robinson, and I think that's what will end up happening. I think the Heat recognize how much of an important role Robinson plays for the Heat's offense. And given that Robinson did show flashes of defensive improvement last year, I think the Heat would be willing to give Robinson that expected $20 to $24 million a year that he has earned. And I think Robinson will be a long-time member of the Heat, or at least I hope so. These last two players I'm going to go through quickly. They were the two-way players last year for the Heat in Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. Strus has been developing as a pretty solid shooter off the bench. He's obviously not at that stage right now where you can count on him to contribute key rotational minutes, but given that Strus did show flashes of shooting brilliance at times, he showed a flash here or there, and he did show that he at the very least is an active defender. I'm not going to call him a solid defender by any means, but at the very least he was active. He tried on the defensive end of the floor. I think the Heat will end up re-signing Strus in hopes that he could develop into a reliable shooter off the bench and someone that could log in key rotational minutes. The last guy I want to talk about today is Gabe Vincent, who is hooping right now on the Nigerian basketball team with KZ Akpala and Presta Chua. Go ahead and watch those guys in the Olympics along with Bam Adebayo on the USA team. I'm getting a little sidetracked right now, so anyways, back on to Gabe Vincent. He is a competitor on defense. He's super aggressive, and I think he has the intangibles to become the next backup point guard of the Heat in the near future. If the Heat continues to develop his offensive game, get his jump shot a little more consistent, then he could absolutely become a key rotational player in the future. That's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that post notification bell so you never miss a video. Also, like I said earlier, go ahead and comment down below whether you agree or disagree with the players that I have the Miami Heat re-signing. And I just want to let you guys know that for the next few videos, they're going to be a little longer than usual. I'm going to complete my Miami Heat free agency preview series, and I just have so much content to put out for you guys. So yeah, that's why the videos are going to be a little longer. So with that being said, I will catch you later. Peace.